Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another Mattel Jurassic World Dominion release to take a look at. In fact, we have the final piece of the puzzle when it comes to the newest wave of roar strikers. We've got ourselves the Triceratops. As you can see, the packaging is pretty much as per usual when it comes to the Dominion line. Nothing new, nothing exciting going on. We do have an image down here showing off the other three figures in the wave, all of which we've now reviewed here on the channel. And then, of course, our Triceratops up here. I will say the Triceratops does look pretty cool. I think the coloration is probably one of my favorites that I think I've seen from Mattel for this type of Triceratops in quite some time. So that's definitely a plus for the figure. But I'm really excited to see it out of the packaging because you can never tell exactly how nice a figure looks until it's actually fully unveiled. So let's pop it out of the box and do that right now. So here is the newest version of the Triceratops from Mattel. And it is actually pretty nice, you know. I think the paint job as a whole looks decent enough. It, of course, could look a little nicer if there were more paint leading out onto the tail, but since the first half of the figure, well, not even the first half, but the first part of the figure has a different tone of color compared to the second half, I feel like it looks better than a lot of the Mattel Triceratops figures do. Of course, things like painted nails would have helped, but I think as a whole, it's still a pretty decent-looking coloration and a pretty decent-looking paint scheme for our newest version of the Roar Strikers Triceratops. So let's jump straight to a closer look at it right now. So sculpt-wise, looking at the Triceratops, I don't notice anything on this that's any different from previously released Triceratops figures. So the sculpt, to me, looks to be exactly the same. So we don't really need to go over the sculpt or anything like that. We've done that plenty of times in the past. We really need to basically look at what's new with the figure, and that, of course, is the paint job. So you can see that we have a really nice brownish coloration for the face of our Triceratops. That looks pretty good. You can see that we also have the beak as well as the horns here painted with a nice kind of a light gray or an off-white, and it also has a really nice gloss coat to it, like beautiful looking glossy appearance to those areas, which is a huge plus, I think, for the appearance to the Triceratops here in the face. You also can see we do have yellow eyes, but unfortunately we have a brown pupil rather than a black pupil because they basically just gave the pupil the coloration that we see here in the face rather than actually going the extra mile and giving us a black pupil, which I think would have really helped the figure look a little better. And it's upsetting that they chose to go that route because the paint job as a whole I think is really quite nice, and that really could have helped it a little bit more. But again, with the brown being a darker tone of brown, it doesn't look terrible. It just could have been a little better. Not like some of the figures like this. But as you lead up into the frill, you can see we have a really cool reddish coloration, and I love, well, it's more like a red-orange, but I love the way it's applied, where it's kind of just highlighting all of the scales really nicely up here on the frill. You can see it's not overly thick or anything, but you can kind of make out the browns in between all of the scales. Probably one of the cooler looking designs, I would say, up here in the frill of a Triceratops from Mattel. And it's not even that flashy as far as like the design goes. It's just basically a bunch of splotchy red, but the way they've applied it and the way that it allows the brown to kind of creep through the scales definitely looks really cool. Unfortunately, we don't have any paint for the spikes that run here around the frill, so that all remains that brownish coloration. And then as we lead back here into the neck region, it's almost more like a really dark green, actually. In certain lights, it looks like a brown, but then as you lead back here, it almost looks like a dark military green that we have for the Triceratops. But you can see again that the back of the frill just continues to have that coloration, and then we also have that color running along the back here of the Triceratops as you lead out. You can see it kind of start to splotch down a little bit here and there, but by the time we reach the hip region, it's pretty much gone as per usual. Outside of that, you can see that we have this really nice kind of a light tone for the Triceratops as far as the body goes. There's no coloration as far as extra color here on the underside. We don't even have a speckling that I'm picking up on really on this one. Maybe a light speckling, but it's not enough to really take notice to it. It's an absolutely incredible looking sculpt as always, but just not really too much else as far as coloration goes. We definitely have a little bit of a glossy look though for the toenails, which is definitely a plus. Even here on the rear foot, it kind of looks like we have a gloss coat added to the nails. It's weird how sometimes it has that and sometimes it doesn't. Very, very strange. There is the Jurassic Facts app code though, if you would like to add this Triceratops to your collection, and you can again basically see that everything looks pretty much the same over here, fairly precise. The eye paint looks okay on this side, not too far off from what we saw on the other side. So it's not the best Triceratops ever. That obviously would be the Hammond collection version when it comes to a Mattel Triceratops, but it's still a pretty decent looking one, and again, like I said earlier, probably one of my favorite repaints that Mattel has produced. As far as articulation goes, you can see we have articulation in the neck, which is going to apparently set off the roaring aspect of the figure because that is part of the action feature. The legs do go forward and back, a little bit jerky, kind of stiff. They also go out away from the body a little bit, and then the rear legs definitely can go forward and back. They have like a clicking going on, but they move pretty smoothly. And then you have a swivel tail, but that's pretty much completely useless. And then we have a action feature for it, and it's the standard when it comes to the Roar Strikers line, so we just push the figure down. Some pretty fun noises for our Triceratops, and that's pretty much the action feature you would want for a Triceratops, would be like a rearing up of the head so that it can attack using the horns that it has. But as far as a size, lengthwise, you're looking at about a foot pretty much on the dot, or about 30.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, even though we probably don't need one, there is the Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Roar Strikers Triceratops, and you can see that this figure falls right in the same size range as all of the previous Triceratops that have come before it. So if you have one at this point, you've already got an idea as far as what the size is of this one. So this brand new Jurassic World Dominion Roar Strikers Triceratops is another fun release, but it's not anything to go crazy over. We have already had this figure in the Roar Strikers line. Actually, I believe with the initial wave of Jurassic World Dominion figures, we had a Roar Strikers Triceratops. So we now have the same sculpt, just reused with a brand new paint job here. And the paint job, I will say, is pretty nice for the most part. Of course, it could always be better. Pretty much any Mattel figure could have improvement when it comes to the paint job. And that's exactly the case for this one. But I think what they have given us here is still pretty decent as far as a random run-of-the-mill Triceratops from Mattel goes. Nice looking tones of color they've used for the figure, and again, I love the coloration up there on the frill. I just really like how that red-orange coloration plays off of the darker tones of the face and frill area of the Triceratops. I like the gloss coat they've used for the horns and beak as well. The sculpt is phenomenal. It always is when it comes to a Mattel Triceratops. Beautiful, beautiful detail, but we've gone over the sculpt tons of times in the past, so we don't really need to do that again. We also have some nice articulation, but it's not great. And then we have an action feature, which is okay. It's pretty much exactly what you would expect for an action feature of a Triceratops, as well as some pretty cool noises for the figure. But I believe we've also had all of that before as well. So still a pretty fun figure, a nice looking repaint. If you are interested in picking this up, though, I will include a link in the description to where I purchased mine on Big Bad Toy Store. So make sure you check the link down in the description. Go grab yourself this Triceratops before it sells out, and like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.